Now, just 6 of the crew members remained, and their hopes of survival relied completely upon being found. But their supply ship, Pine Island, was 500 kilometers away, and finding their wreckage would be extremely difficult. Back at the ship, the crew of Pine Island began planning a rescue mission. The last bit of data they had placed the crew around here. But without knowing when the plane went down, the crew could have been anywhere. Luckily, they had the data, and it hadn't fallen into the wrong hands. In order to rescue the crew of George 1, the men on Pine Island had to find them and somehow rescue them with a plane that could only land on water. The weather around the ship remained terrible for another 3 days, and so no rescue missions could be launched. Back on the crash site, the 6 survivors were slowly freezing to death in a negative 20-degree blizzard. Frenchie was in a really bad way, and his burns meant that he could barely open his mouth. He was slowly dying of frostbite and dehydration. Yet, thanks to the cold and dry conditions, infections, which would have killed him by now, hadn't spread due to the lack of bacteria. Despite all of this, Frenchie never complained once, and he always tried to crack a joke whenever he could. After some more searching around the debris, Robbins found a gas stove and managed to power it by siphoning fuel from one of the plane's spare tanks. He then became the de facto chef of the whole crew, cooking them 2 meals a day, spinach soup followed by peanut butter on bread. On day 4, the weather finally cleared, and the sun was now showering them in light. Despite the situation, they were completely overwhelmed by the sheer beauty of the location. They used this break in the weather to properly bury their dead crew members under the snow. In order to make it easier for recovery crews to find them, they placed metal objects inside the graves that could be picked up by magnetometers. On day 5, the crew of the crash site were running out of fresh food and would soon be down to just cans of dry meat. That day, Robbins went out to look for more equipment and found a camera that belonged to Lopez, the photographer who died in the crash. He took some pictures of the crash site and stored the film in his sleeping bag so he wouldn't forget it. On day 7, the weather around the ship finally cleared, and a rescue plane left Pine Island in search of the crew. Using the last confirmed location of the plane, the rescue team started scanning the ground back and forth in a ladder search pattern. As they reached land, the weather became overcast and any hopes of seeing the crew had disappeared behind a sea of fog. At this exact moment, Frenchie woke up in a daze and said he heard the sound of a plane in the distance. He hadn't heard anything. He was simply dreaming about being rescued.